people joining right now. So as everyone is joining us, good morning or good afternoon. Welcome to Becoming a Wise Agent podcast webinar series. My name is Eleni Sommerschield. I'll be your host today. And I have our friend Matt Lamont from Voxtur with us today. We're going to be talking about lead farming techniques. And so we're going to be talking about a subject that I'm not all that familiar with. I mean, I have a general idea of the concept and everything else, but Matt's going to kind of guide us through some things. So we've got a lot of questions coming in from you all. And so while we're sitting here introducing Matt's introducing himself, if you guys wouldn't mind going in the chat and just telling us what city, state, brokerage, and how long you've been in the industry, that would be great. I love seeing where everyone is coming from. So I'll let you guys talk about that. And Matt, if you wouldn't mind telling us how long have you been with Voxtur? And how long have you been doing all of this with Title Toolbox? And we're going to be speaking specifically about the Title Toolbox platform that Voxtur has.
I have been, well, Benutech merged with Voxtur, and so I've just been doing the same thing. So before that, we were Benutech. We made, if some of you may have heard of it, Rebo Gateway. We made that data system back in the day. That was kind of like when real estate was introduced into using data in their marketing. It was back after the crash of 2008. And we started pulling things like divorce and mortgage defaults and foreclosures was like a really big thing back then.
Yeah.
So about 10 years. And then in the real estate field in general, I've been a little over like 20 years in various spaces, from being a lender, flipping properties and all kinds of stuff.
I know I was going to say 10 years. I'm like, you've been with the company more than 10 years because I think that's when I met you. I've only met you in person like once.
Well, time flies when you're having fun, right?
Right? Exactly. So, all right. Well, we're going to be learning all about farming and farming techniques from Matt and using Title Toolbox. So maybe can you introduce Title Toolbox to our audience and tell them exactly kind of what the tool is and how it helps real estate agents?
So what is Title Toolbox? Title Toolbox is basically a way of marketing, like using data to market, right? So I'm sure at this point everybody is familiar, maybe not with data itself, but knows that data is useful in marketing. Back when we started, nobody thought data was useful. Joke's on them now because data is being used to fuel even artificial intelligence, and it is more valuable than oil. Why is data important? Because you can look at historical data or behavioral data, and then you can predict what people are going to do, right? So that's how YouTube is probably manipulating you right now, right? They will like watch what you do. Maybe you think your phone's listening to you. It's really not. Your phone's not listening to you. You guys can look that up. What your phone's actually doing is, or your browser or stuff like that, is recording stuff like your data, right? What Title Toolbox is not doing anything creepy like that. We're not going around spying on people or doing anything strange. All we're doing is looking at various public records and real estate public records and putting it all together, basically, to try and find who's most likely to sell their house. That's the main mission. We also look for things like if somebody's a good flip potential, like I could flip this house, or for lenders, we look for who's most likely to refinance their home.
Yes. So, and with Title Toolbox, that's the integration that we have with Voxtur. Then there's another product and I think that's what you're going to be showing as well. But let's go through, before we start going through that other product, let's talk a little bit about Title Toolbox and how that is being utilized by people right now. I know quite a few of you are utilizing that functionality. It's absolutely free within Wise Agent. So you can, and I'm going to share my screen here. So I was just going to show a title toolbox and showing how that that's utilized within Wise Agent. So within Wise Agent, we have our properties and our property list. For some of you folks out there, we can get your listings from the MLS and coming in automatically. So if you have questions on that, our support team can help you through that. But really what you are able to do with this title toolbox is once you have a property address in here, you can simply request to pull to generate the property profile data. And this basically, in essence, will pull in, whatever this, whoever the owner of this property is, and then grab that information and display the title information. So it'll talk about who the owner is, all of the, and all the property details in here, right? When it was purchased and what the loan amount is, the latitude, longitude, an image of everything. So it really goes through and it says quite a few things in here to one kind of a security measure for you to make sure that the person that says that is owning this property is actually the owner of that property. That's how Title Toolbox works. And so you can take that, it's a PDF. You can take that PDF, you can store that, and then it gets connected. The contact that's attached, the owner of this property gets attached as a contact here. So then you can see who that owner is and you can, take actions based on that. So you can, reach out to them, call them, email them, do whatever it is that you need to do in order to take those next steps in that relationship. All right. So, so that's how Title Toolbox works. And Matt, you're on mute. But if you wanted to show it, because I know there's another component that we're working on with Voxtur in order to have our members utilize some of the other tools that you guys have and offer. I'm going to stop my sharing and maybe you can talk a little bit about those tools as well.
Sure. Let me share my screen.
While you're doing that, a couple of questions are coming in. And is Title Toolbox available for Canada?
No, unfortunately, no, we don't have that in Canada
Okay.
at this point. And I don't know if it's not in the works, so I won't give you any promises that will come in the future.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just United States data. That being said, it is coast to coast. We have data even in Alaska. So any place you want to go, the data's there. And if you don't mind, what I'd like to do now is kind of show like what this thing could do.
Yeah.
And then like a little bit, I know you're not going to learn how to use this just by watching me do it. And that's okay. There's going to be like a sign up thing at the end and I can show you or someone else can show you how to use this system afterwards, right?
Yes. Yeah. So this is not training. This is simply like what is possible for you once you're utilizing Voxtur. So
Yeah,
yeah.
this is actually more strategy, right? And if you use another data system, it's totally cool. You could use the same strategy as long as the data is there. This one is the most widely used system that's out there. I'm not just saying that because I'm with Voxtur. That's a fact, right? If you look at any title insurance company that's out there, they have it. If they don't, well, you're lucky because I'm here. And Wise Agent covers. There's a lot of the country that companies that do have this don't cover. A lot of states, and most of you are in those states, right? So fortunately, because of Wise Agent and the relationship that we have, there's going to be soon a button in Wise Agent where you can just click on it and you go directly into this. But I want to cover just general strategy of things, kind of that see that are the wrong way of farming, I'd say, and show you some like easy shortcuts to get to where you need to go. Your coach has already told you, I'm sure, about like turnover rate, right? If any of you had a real estate coach or you got a good broker owner over there that teaches you cool stuff, or you've been in the industry forever, you know, like decades or at least a decade or whatever. You've heard of turnover rate in some way, somehow. But out there on the street, what I see a lot is this type of stuff, where I go get a listing, right, from my sphere of influence, my brothers, uncles, sisters, uh, grandmother that I met at the barbecue, right? And then she refers me a house. And now I list this house, and of course, you know, I'm not going to stop there. I'm probably going to target the nearby neighbors, right? This is probably the search I've seen the most. And if I look in the data on our own usage, this is what I see a lot too. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And matter of fact, if you're prospecting anything, that's great, you know, because there's a lot of realtors out there that don't prospect whatsoever. And then when we have situations like we do right now where the inventory is super low, that's going to be tough, you know. And I've seen top realtors, actually just talked to one a couple days ago. She's one of the top realtors for Coldwell Banker. Her sphere of influence is dry, and you'd never think that of her, you know. So farming, to me, you should always be farming. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pulling the 200 nearby neighbors, because this is what I see a lot. There's nothing wrong with hitting the nearby neighbors. You probably should, because you want to tell them about the house that you have for sale, right?
Right. And it's
That
also an opportunity to, one, get to know the neighbors, for you to become the realtor of that neighborhood, right? Get yourself, start building those relationships, being able to maybe even dominate that area. This is a great way of doing that.
Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties pulling. Hold on. Yes, but if the nearby neighbors aren't selling houses, that is when it becomes a problem, right?
Mhm.
So how can you tell whether or not houses are being sold in the area? It's turnover rate. So I'm going to take the 12 months. I'm going to look at how many homes have been sold versus how many homes are in this area. I'm zooming through this, like I said, because I'm not going to give you a tutorial. I just want to kind of give you a quick strategy. So here's the turnover rate of this spot, right? Imagine if you're the realtor and you just got this again from your grandmother's, uncle's, sister's, uh, whatever, boyfriend's
Yeah.
uncle, right? In your sphere of influence. And out of 200 homes, 2 have sold in the last 12 months. So you market here and you send out postcards, you knock on doors, and you make phone calls and hit it with Facebook target ads. You could hit it with everything in the bank. You could even have an AI robot with Tony Robbins plugged in there with rebuttals plugged in that tries to automatically close people. You are still not changing this number. Some people say, hey, I'll target an area that has a low turnover rate because I'm going to make this a high turnover rate. That's not how it works, right? These numbers are steady. Why? Because human beings, unless you're like the most spectacular, charismatic, you know, con artist on earth, you can't brainwash anybody, right? Like you can't just come
Yeah.
up and be like, hey, you know what? Sell your house. Okay, cool. You know, they're not going to do that. So this, you can look at the past 5 years. You see what I'm talking about. This is from 2019, right? Has this changed ever? No. It
No.
goes up and down, kind of in the same spots. I have looked at this farm and used it as an example for years. Because I've seen a real estate agent was trying to farm here, and I asked them, why would you market to this area? There's only 2 sales a year here. And they said they like to walk their dog there, right? So maybe that's not a good idea to farm that spot because you like to walk your dog there. Just walk your dog there. But here is how you solve the problem, right? 1% turnover rate is awful. What's the national turnover rate? People ask me sometimes. You can actually do that in Google if you want. You just look at total homes sold in the United States versus total number of homeowners. The number you'll get is going to be, I think, around 4%, right? So 1% is awful. You don't want that. And if you market to that area, you will die on that you will die on that, in that
Okay.
area,
Mhm.
marketing wise. So what I'm going to do is punch in that same zip code, and I'm going to pull all the EDDM carrier routes, right? So EDDM, for those who don't know, is every door direct, right? Every door direct, you can get a discount on postage if you send it along the carrier route, which is great. But what carrier route should you drop that postage on, right? You still want it next to the spot that you sold the house in, because the strategy of trying to get, the keeping up with the Joneses effect, that is good. It just, as long as people are selling houses. I'm doing a minimum of 100 homes on the list, because I think a list should at least be 100 strong. I'm going to do a search. So what it's doing now is it's going through that zip code and looking at all the different carrier routes, which ones are the highest turnover, right? So I can increase my turnover to 3.5%, right? So out of 400 homes, 14 have sold, and the average price of homes in that spot is 900,000, right? So I know what my commission range is going to be. I could do all my metrics just based off these numbers. You already know, I'm sure a lot of you have already, looked at, okay, if I market to this many, what's my response rate going to be, right? And then out of this many listing appointments, how many of these are going to turn into listings? And then out of how many listings, how many of these are going to turn into sales? This is going to help you with those metrics. Along
So,
with the average price, you're going to be able to calculate your commission for the year
yeah.
if you market to the area. You know what I'm
So,
saying?
so Matt, can we slow it down for 1 second? Let's just
Sure.
kind of talk a little bit through more thorough about this data that we're showing, this data set. So what you're saying is this list of people, so where it says like this group number that ends in like 009, Garden
Uh-huh.
Grove, what we're looking at is it's saying that there's 3.52% turnover rate, which has a almost 400 homes in that one group, that one section.
That
And
one
this is by
carrier route.
so this is by when you say carrier route, you're talking about a mail carrier that where they get assigned like a bunch of like mail to deliver and they're just delivering it
Yeah, it's
out
the
to, right?
mailman.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
the
mail
mailman's
mail
assigned this
carrier.
route. Yep.
Okay. And out of those 400 homes, on average, there's 14. Is this an average or is this like last year's total homes sold, this 14
No, this is the total.
total?
There's,
Okay.
yeah, not average. The average would be on the on the
The average
price.
price. So, and this is 14 homes sold in the last 12 months?
Correct.
Okay. And so then the average price per home is 908,000.
Mm-hmm.
The average years of somebody owning that property is 14 and a half years,
Mm-hmm.
which that's an interesting number. And then what is this last column? I can't see if that's an NCO or
So
NC.
yeah, that one needs to be explained. So this is
Yeah.
NOO ratio, which means non-owner occupied ratio. So that's
Okay.
telling us how many of these homes are owner occupied versus non-owner occupied.
Okay.
So 30% means that 30% of these homes are non-owner occupied. What's that
Okay.
good for? If I'm going door knocking, I don't want this number to be high, right? In
Yeah.
fact, I might not even do the 30%, because anything above like 25% means that 1 in 4 doors are going to be not decision
Tenants.
makers.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
tenants, exactly. And and you're not door knocking. Let's face it, like there is so much easier ways to get buyer leads than knocking on doors. You knock on doors for listings
Right.
generally, right?
Yeah. So, okay, so now let's say, for example, we take this first meal carrier route in Garden Grove, and what are we able to do here? So we see the statistics. Are we able to get a list of those 400 homes, 398 homes?
Exactly. Yeah. So just to kind of show you the numbers and like how that works in reality, look at this, right? So 1% turnover rate, this is what it gets you. 300 out of 355 homes. So think $1 a mailer. Let's just say it's not $1 a mailer, but we'll just make it easy. You're spending $355 a month, right? So
Mhm.
every month you need to hit these people. You can't just send one postcard out and you become a millionaire. That's only on YouTube. In reality, you have to market to people for months, right? And 355 bucks a month, you have a potential of hitting getting 4 sales in this list.
For
If
listings.
you look at the top, out of 398, 14 sales. I mean, it doesn't take or look at this, 468. So you're spending 468 bucks to aim at a potential of 6. You could spend less money and get twice as many
Right.
that you're aiming at, right? So that's kind of, I mean, like I said, you don't need. I'm not a smart guy. I'm no statistician or rocket scientist. That's for sure. But I can look at these numbers, and it's pretty easy for me to figure out, like, if I gave a real estate agent this list, or if I gave him that list, which one's gonna do better, you know?
Right.
So at that point, yeah, to answer your question, yes, you would select the list that you want.
Mhm.
And I want to point out one thing, and that's there are anomalies. And what I mean by that is weird stuff in the data that you want to stay away from. So if this average year owned is low, super, super low to an unrealistic point, like the average year owned is 2 years, that means that the turnover rate's high only because there's a new housing development. And I just wanted to point that out. Not every time the turnover rate's high, it's a good thing. You got to look at average year owned and make sure that it makes sense, right? People usually
Right.
live in their house on average anywhere from 7 to 14 years, depending on the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They don't live there 2 years.
Okay.
Um,
So now
go,
you can get a CSV of this data of all of the context. And what data are we going to be is going to be displayed here?
so good question. Once you get to the screen, what this is asking me basically is, do I want to add additional filters? I'm not going to go over all these different filters, but there is a ton of them, right? So I can sort things from, bedrooms, bathrooms, greater than, less than. I'm not going to go into all that because I don't want to, drag the class out. But what I do want to point out is I can go pull all the phone numbers and email addresses for all of those homeowners, right? So
Mhm.
if I want to hit them with social media ads, or maybe I want to email them, or, call them up, send them a text message, or wherever you want to do it, you're able to pull that contact information.
These phone numbers that you're getting and emails, these are things that you're going to want to closely vet and monitor. You don't want to do bulk emails on these. These are more one-off individual emails in order to start building a relationship, and then obviously respect the unsubscribes. We handle all that for you here, but
Absolutely.
yeah, and stay
I would,
compliant.
yeah, I mean, as far as the emails are concerned, I wouldn't, you can use, yeah, like Wise Agent's talking about you don't want to send bulk emails out. I've done this. I've made this mistake in the past. Uh, if you, they have such good systems right now on emails on detecting your spam, and whether you're sending out like a ton of junk email to
Yeah.
people, they don't just like, your stuff doesn't just go into the junk email. They'll blacklist you from everything. That's why what
Yeah.
Eleni's talking about is, yeah, you got to pay attention to that, because
Yeah.
you'll be sending out docs, to one of your customers, and they won't get it, or they'll get like a fraud alert. So you have to be careful with the emails for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
The best
Definitely too. Go ahead.
the best thing to utilize with this data set that you're going to be getting, because you are going to be getting address information, because we know, because we're farming for a postal carrier group, right? So we know we're going to get property address information. So you can send a postcard that has a QR code on it, that will take them to a landing page where it's and the postcard messaging can be somewhat like specific to say, hey, I'm trying to reach you to see if you're interested in selling your property.
Yep. That to me, all right. I want to say this. There's a lot of people are relying on just one thing. I don't think you should ever rely on just one thing. What I mean by that, there's like a term, omni-channel marketing. I think that is super, super important. You have to hit the prospects from multiple angles. Like just a postcard, yeah, you're gonna get people here and there, but would you really maximize this list if you just sent postcards and you've never talked to these homeowners, you've
Right.
never knocked on the door, you've never called them, and never nothing, right? Like the chances of them picking up the postcard being like, okay, I want to sell my house with you is lower than if you followed it up with a phone call or knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And you can use the postcard as an angle, right? So I
Right.
could say, hey, did you get my postcard? What postcard? Right? That's how I start my call. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier
It
that
should be
way.
it should be definitely your first touch of, this is my, or a touch. It should definitely be there. And so tell us what it is that we're seeing on the screen here. So we've got some addresses, cities, zip, state, so like the year the property was sold, and I'm assuming the next field over, is that the price that it was sold?
Which field? Oh, you're talking about the where
With,
it says have the
yeah,
dollar
so
sign. Yeah,
yeah.
so you can see where it was last, like this one was last sold in 2023 to Bruce Carter, right? This is basically a preview of the Excel sheet that you would get if you exported this data, right? There's a lot more data that comes with it besides just this, but this kind of gives you a bird's eye view, as well as like if you populated this with phone numbers, let's say, and you're using this to call people, then you can take notes or whatever. Eventually what we're going to do, where everything's getting integrated with Wise Agent, so
Mhm.
you'll be able to do a lot of the functions that you need to on Wise Agent. We've always believed as a platform, we let everybody do what they're best at. We are not a CRM, and I hope to God that you don't use this for a CRM, because it's not a good CRM. This is a data platform, right?
Yeah.
So you really want to get your data and then move that data over to your CRM so you're able to follow up on them. Because if you keep everybody in here, you just prospect people from Title Toolbox. Yeah, there's this little note function, but it's janky, right? That
Yeah.
we're not, like I said, we're not a CRM. So you pump all this into Wise Agent and then kind of set these guys up and figure out, who you've called, who you haven't. It's maybe some people, Greg says, hey, you know what, I think I might be interested in selling my house in a couple months. Cool. I put that as a follow-up and so on and so forth. I'm sure, Eleni could talk a little bit more about her CRM. But what you want to do once you pull this list is you do want to export it out into a farm CSV or a custom, and you can choose which data fields you want to export,
Right.
right?
And soon to come, we're going to have that integration where it'll just be a click of a button, and this list or the selected people that you want will go automatically into your Wise Agent account. But I wanted to, if you could talk a little bit about this data set. Does it say here, because it has owner name, does it show if it's owner occupied?
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll see that the site address and the mail address is different. Um, you can also see here that you have green and you got blue, right? So green is owner occupied, blue is non-owner occupied.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because then that again would be different. Obviously, then you're not going to send it to the property address if it's not owner occupied. You would be able to, and within Wise Agent, you can, we'll be able to, even right now as an export and import, you can import it to make sure that you're getting the right mailing address for
Yep.
these non-owner occupied properties, because it is important to send them that information. You want the decision, you want that postcard, you want that stuff in the decision maker's hands. You want to be able to talk to them and not the person that's just the tenant there.
So some of you might have caught this and said, whoa, what's this Facebook thing? A lot of people are having challenges importing data into Facebook. So we have this Facebook button. This creates a file you could drag and drop into Facebook target ads, right? So imagine, I mean, because Facebook's got great data, but they don't have any real estate data. That's the problem. And they try to dip and dabble into it, and unfortunately, they got sued up the hilt. So that was a wrap. So unfortunately, a lot of real estate agents had problems trying to get real estate data in there. What we did as a solution is we created this. You just click on it. It creates a Excel file. It's pre-formatted to go straight into Facebook target ads. So you don't have to do all those crazy things like changing the headers and all this other stuff, right? Another thing, you can upload your own list into here, right? And you can do something like this where you click on a button, and this is going to scan the list for maybe challenges that your customers are having that you can help with right now. Like this person is getting foreclosed on and is about to hit the auction block, unfortunately. And you got 4 people that just inherited houses, right? And 2 people have involuntary liens. That could be like IRS income tax liens, mechanic liens, or whatever. They get a lien on their house. And in my experience, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So that is another way that you can prospect, which is target marketing. And I'm going to go into a little bit about that if you don't mind, Eleni,
Yeah.
unless there's, I should probably
Yeah.
stop, I guess, and answer some questions on geofarming before I move to that.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't see any questions. I did have one question for you. So I'm seeing a
yes.
lot of them that have I do see like units, total number of units. I don't think this one has multi-unit properties in this neighborhood. So would that have so if it's apartment buildings or condos or whatever it is, you would have a unit number for each of those and have specifically like 1A went for whatever, and this is the property owner?
Yeah, we have the unit number if it's like condos and whatnot, but the unit thing right here is just how many units these properties have. These are all single family residences
Okay,
is what I pulled. And so they don't have units. But if I was
okay,
pulling like multifamily dwellings, apartment buildings, or commercial,
yeah,
then that would have the units on there.
okay. And is this useful as well for commercial, or is this only for residential?
Well, we got everything in here. So if you
Okay,
go over here, the property characteristics, so I have those on by default. But you take a look, you have different kind of subsections. So you can go in residentials, apartments, commercial. I mean, there's
yeah,
a lot of stuff. We actually just redid this area because there's so many property types.
yeah. No, that's really
Do
interesting.
you want
Because
dump
I'm,
sites?
oh wow, okay.
I don't know when that's going to get popular.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So you can search for any types of properties. So
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Cynthia's commenting that she has a closing next month on a listing. And so this could be helpful for her to capture properties near her listing and saying, hey, or this would be great marketing for you saying, I just sold, your neighbor's house. Maybe you want to talk to me about selling your property, right? It's a
Yeah,
great tool to utilize to use that messaging there.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. And I know, so can you explain to people, Matt, I know this is something that they can log into today.
This is something they can log into today. So I'm going to put up a landing page kind of towards the end, or I can actually put that up now if you want.
Yeah.
Um, or do you have, I think I gave it to you.
Yeah, I think maybe Miranda can post that because if you guys are wanting to know, how you'd be able to utilize this yourself. I mean, this is something that is, like Cynthia was saying, this is useful for any, potential closings that you have coming up, but even, something that you've already just recently closed, or if you're just wanting to look for more buyers and sellers in your area, this would be something. Because I mean, even when it says that it's 30% non-owner occupied, I mean, you can go in here and say, well, these are tenants. So now you can say like, hey, if you're tired of paying your landlord's mortgage, call me and we can talk. So it's not like, oh, well, now I'm missing out on 30% of these people. You can still message them. It's just going to be a different type of message that you're going to be sending them. So it's just
Well,
a,
I can actually show you something really cool if you want to touch on
yeah,
that idea. The thing with data is everything's about being timely, right? There's no one way. I know a lot of people will do that. Oh, there's only one way to doing real estate or marketing or whatever. If you do this, you make $1 million. Usually not the case, right?
right.
Like right now, this is what I'm talking about with timely. So recently in California, they passed a law that says if you're a tenant inside a non-owner occupied home and the landlord is foreclosing on that house, right? So the landlord's in trouble, and they go to the auction block. What used to happen is, the real estate investors would go out there. I've been out there, right? And it's crazy, right? These guys
Yeah.
go out, they bid on the house and whatnot, then they win the bid, and they get the house. Well, now when you win the bid, you don't get the house. What happens is they put it on a 30-day hold, and for a month, the tenant has the right to take that house, buy the house, uh,
Oh,
for whatever the auction price was. And outside the tenant, if you're a first time home buyer, you can also buy that house, right? So imagine that as a great marketing campaign, because
wow.
now I go in here, right? So this is what I'm talking about with data and targeting and being timely. So I go in here, I'm in the state of California. I'm going to go pull everybody that is in foreclosure, and I'm going to look at the last 3 months of people that are in foreclosure. And then I'm going to
I'd love to see, there's a raise
go
hand
non-owner
button.
occupied,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. While you're,
And look for all non-owner occupied homes that are in foreclosure. And then I'm going to hit up the tenant. So that's what I mean by being timely,
yeah.
and then using target marketing, which is kind of what we're going to go into right now, right? Is like
Yeah.
how to target market.
Yeah, I'd love to see how
So
many of you that are on here. I know you guys already posted like what city and state you're in, but if you're in California, do a show like the raise hand. So I think that was such a great little tidbit right there of something that really can help you kind of, kind of move the needle a little bit towards getting more, more traction in your business. That was great, Matt. Love that.
it's building value. I was just
Right,
reading an article, we
right.
just had the NAR, the whole NAR settlement drama. All of us know about this, right?
Yeah,
But now it's all about building value as a buyer's agent, right? And that's what everyone's talking about. What's that value add? What kind of value can you build as a buyer's agent? Well, I think it'd be definitely a big value add if you told the tenant, guess what? You can get this house, not just get this house, but you can get it $200,000 off or
right.
$300,000 off.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
huge value. Why
Oh,
would they not pay you a
absolutely.
big commission for that?
Oh,
They wouldn't
yeah.
even look at your commission.
Absolutely. They would be, you would definitely become the realtor for life for them because they're gonna that's gonna be, that would be huge. A few questions that are coming in here pretty quickly. So if someone currently already has the Gateway, can they use Voxtur?
Nope, these are two separate products.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot of questions. Is this free to Wise Agent customers, and will it be
Yeah.
integrated, no additional costs? The answer is yes, 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 yes to all that stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
And
Title
Wendy, yes, it
Toolbox
is
is free.
available in Louisiana as well. We were just specifically
Yes,
talking about California. That's Matt, that's where he's located, is in California. So,
we have
um,
data everywhere.
mhm,
Yeah, now some of the laws I'm talking about,
are different.
that was California specific, but there's, you'll see, of course, you read your real estate news. This is what I do. I read real estate news, and I go in here and I try and think of, okay, how would I find somebody in that situation, right? So that's kind of like where my brain's going when I target market,
Right.
right?
Well, and just that, and that's the importance of being up to date with everything happening in the industry and happening in your state. What are the laws that are being changed? What's happening? So then like if there's something else like this thing in California, I saw several hands raised in that are in California. I wonder how many of you knew about that law that Matt talked about. So I didn't know about that. I'm not in California, but yeah, that's an interesting little tidbit there. So, um, but yeah, we can go on because I know that you've got more to show on this, but I
Yep.
think anytime that we show something that is really going to be beneficial to people and doing something unique and different, and that's something to point out there.
So
Um,
yep, if you want to, for the tool, right now you're gonna go to a landing page, and I'm gonna make you guys accounts. We are working right now on a button that goes from Wise Agent and just drops you straight in here. So you guys know this whole thing is title insurance is behind it, right? So we have multiple title insurance companies using this tool: Fidelity, First American, Old Republic, you know, I can go on, right? There's like a lot of people are using this tool, and it's given to you by your title reps. So you'll see this out here. If you haven't seen this out here, your title rep does not have it. That is Voxtur. We also have a title company. So you could do either or. If you've seen this and this interface looks familiar, good. Go ahead your title rep up and tell them, hey, you got title toolbox. Awesome. Show me how to use it. We train all of those title reps on that. But in a lot of states, there is no title company that is giving you anything, right? And you could just go to that landing page, sign up, and we'll give you a free account. You know, if you're with Wise Agent, no matter what, you can get an account here and you can use this. The only thing you have to pay for is things like phone numbers, or like if you're pulling court records or something like that. Everything else is free. Like that whole turnover rate thing I showed you, you don't have to pay anything for that. It's free.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. We love it when our tech partners, our data partners, give out information like this, give out tools like this that are absolutely at no additional cost to you guys. This is just another way for you to get more business. And so I know Cassandra and everybody else that's asking, like, how do I get Voxtur? That's going to be posted here in a second. I think Colleen
I
or
think we
Miranda's going
posted
to be
it.
posting. Yeah,
But
it's been
yeah,
posted somewhere. Yeah.
let's just flood post it.
Right. Yeah,
There
there
you
you
go.
go.
Yep,
So,
just go to that
there's
landing site
a little
and
bit link.
you can put your information on there. I actually, this is my day off. So after this, I'm done, but I will tomorrow morning, I will open that up and I will get everybody accounts.
Well, see, Matt, that you're such a good friend. You're even on this webinar teaching us and showing us things even on your day off. So we appreciate that.
All good. So if I don't have, there's no more questions on, well, let me stop. Is there any more questions on like the geo farming turnover rate and all that stuff? Does that all make sense to everybody? Are we all good? Don't be
Yeah,
bashful if you
I
have a
know.
question on it, because I
So
know it's a
Todd,
lot of statistics and percentages and all this crap.
right.
Thanks, Matt. When I click
So
on the link, it says free. Okay, free for 14 days.
um, hmm,
Does
let me
it?
see what I don't see that. I
Well, it doesn't
see
say free for
that.
14 days.
Yeah, I'm gonna I'll share my screen. This is what you guys should be getting. So Matt's sharing it right now. So that's what you
This
should
is
be
it.
getting. Yeah.
You should be fill out this. You're good.
Yes. And so there was a couple of questions, is there additional charges for the data? So for the property address data, there is no additional charges. For the names. The additional data charges would be the emails and the phone numbers, and then also any of the court records. So like anyone that's filing for divorce, death certificates, any of that stuff, that would be additional, right, Matt?
Anything, so this is, like I said, this is being provided by title, right? So titles at the end of the day, probably if you're on a West Coast state, you're already familiar with this business model, right? A lot of title companies will provide data. We are the ones that are behind that. As well as Voxtur Settlement Services, our title company also provides data. So we can't give out certain things that are of value because it'd be considered an inducement, right? Um, those things, most DOIs, like the Department of Insurance considers a value, would be mortgage information. Basically, when we're mixing data, like if
Right.
I pull everybody that filed for divorce, like, right, that would be a lead. Or if I put a cell phone number or email address on it. All this other stuff, like that entire turnover rate idea I just showed you, all that stuff is free. And when you do have to pay for data, it doesn't cost much. It's like 5 cents for a phone number, which is incredibly low for a cell phone number, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that definitely is, it's definitely worth the value of just getting this free account and even just doing some of the postcards, the door knocking, and just some of that sweat equity into it. And then, help build that relationship so then you can, increase your, the likelihood of a potential lead. I don't know if we lost.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, you are
Huh?
still there. Your camera's frozen. So I'm like, oh, did we lose you? Did we not?
Yeah, this Zoom, like I don't know why it's doing this to me, but it keeps on giving me the blue circle of death.
Oh no. Okay.
Not
Um,
fun.
yeah, no, that's not fun. So I don't know if there was any other questions. I know one of the things is I wanted to ask you, Matt, is is if this is something. Well, boy, I think we lost him. Yep, we did. We did lose Matt. So I don't know if he's going to try and rejoin or not. I had a question for him, but I'm gonna just put. There we go. Okay, there you are, and you're on mute. Can you unmute?
Yep.
Yep, that's
It
okay.
seems Zoom doesn't want to cooperate with me at all today. It keeps crashing. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was going to say, are there any limits to how many, those postal carrier codes or those groups that they can download? Or is it they can go through and download a whole bunch of them?
You can download a bunch of them. I mean, like the limits are set by the title companies. So
Okay.
if you're using Voxtur settlement services, I mean, I would hope that you would send Voxtur settlement services some title orders, right? But you shouldn't have too many limits on as far as like pulling that data. Like your limits would be like if you're pulling 100,000 people, there's no way you could market to that and all you're doing is being silly,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So you have limits within like reasonable ranges so that you're not like just taking down a bunch of data for no reason at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about teams and, brokers that are wanting to provide some of this for some of their agents. I mean, I think
Hmm.
this, if you're a team lead or if you're a broker owner that wants to provide some valuable contact information to your agents, this would be a great way of doing it. Putting in specific area zip codes or um, property addresses and doing that and pulling that for your agents. Because sometimes that's the thing is that doing this work sometimes takes a little like a minute or two. And maybe not having that friction there would help with some of that.
Well, you'll have access to me, right? When you
Yeah.
sign up for this, I'm not just gonna give you an account and then say good luck. We'll set up something. I'll kind of go over, hey, let's see what you're doing right now. Let me see what I could do to help out with it,
Yeah.
and teach you how to use it or set up, your farm or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just going to be like, hey, here you go, and then you hit whatever, you hit a limit or something, and then you're stuck. Even if you hit a limit, it notifies me, or you can text me and say I hit a limit, and I'll go, cool. Well, let's see what you're doing,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll
Yeah.
increase the limits if we need to.
Yeah. And definitely, I can say Matt is very great at giving you all that training, all the tools that you need in order to understand the product. So I think there's a question though, Matt, and maybe you can answer this for people. People are trying to understand what the difference between the title toolbox functionality is and then the Voxtur. So maybe we can clarify that for everyone.
The title toolbox functionality in Voxtur.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the
So
what's the question?
Voxtur is the name of the company. Voxtur, acquired Benutech, which had a
Hmm.
product named Title Toolbox. And then Title Toolbox, there's different functions and features within Title Toolbox because this whole tool right here is Title Toolbox. What we're looking at
Right.
even right now.
Yeah, I've shown you barely anything. I don't want to show you everything because we'd be here all day long.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of functionality in here. You can pull property reports, with comps. You can pull ownership and encumbrance reports to check for judgments, liens, and
Right.
voluntary liens, and like make sure, do your due diligence to make sure that this is going to be clean before it goes through. There's tons of stuff you could do in here. I'm just showing you kind of the more interesting things, like with the marketing stuff.
Yeah.
But the relationship Voxtur owns Benutech. Benutech is the maker of Title Toolbox. Voxtur also owns Voxtur Settlement Services, which is the title company. And Benutech does, business obviously with most of the major title companies. So this is all, it's title related. As if you're on the West Coast, you kind of know this culture where title insurance, provides data and, advice for real estate agents when it comes to this type of stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did want to go in a little into target marketing
Sure.
before we get too far in.
Yeah, we
Um,
got about 8 minutes.
Cool. So let's just crack this out real quick. So there's a difference, and you don't want to mix these two because I see that happen a lot. There's a difference between target marketing and geo farming, like I was talking about before. Geo farming is the turnover rate. You will not want to take anybody out of the geo farm, if you will. That's kind of like your territory, right? You don't want to target market in your geo farm. You want to hit everybody. Otherwise, the statistics don't even, the math doesn't make any sense. Target marketing is when I'm looking for someone in a specific circumstance that's going to cause them to sell their house, right? So what I'm talking about, so over here in the lead section, I got various challenges, right?
Right.
It could be like community chests. Some of these are the bad cards, some of these are good. So
Right.
like affidavit of death means someone's dead and someone else has just inherited a house. So what you're gonna see is the deceased, you're gonna see a beneficiary, right? I like these, especially when I mix it with out-of-state owners, because if they don't live in the state, they're probably not keeping it, I would imagine. Bankruptcy is exactly what you think it is. Cash buyers, divorce, liens, foreclosures. So there's a difference with, so you see we have list pendants, notice of default, trustee sale. These are all foreclosure processes, right?
Right.
In each state, you're going to have different things, and depending if it's a judicial or non-judicial foreclosure. I do think, if you don't know the difference between the two, or you're getting caught up on that, please go and read. I don't want to, I'm like, they would have to like take a whole class on it, but I would go read up on it, see what it is in your state. All states are different. Some are similar, right? So take for instance, like California, it goes into a notice of default first for 90 days, sometimes more. And then it goes into a trustee sale. And when it hits trustee sale, that is when they set an auction date. And in other states, you'll have a list pendants where it goes into a judicial process. So learn kind of the differences between those and you can use them. Probate, I want to point this out, different from death. These are different. It could be dead. It could not be dead. It could be the person went crazy or whatever, right? It ends up in probate court. This, you're going to have, it gives you case numbers and you put that into your county court. And that's where you pull the information, like, who the decision maker is going to be on that from the court docket. While death, you're just going to get a beneficiary and that beneficiary is on title. Go pull their phone number, call them up, right?
Yeah. I was going to mention one thing when you were talking about the bankruptcy and the foreclosures, all that. It reminded me, I was like, oh, is Marky Lemons, is she on? I don't know if she's on, but Marky had, she and I had gone through and done a webinar about foreclosures and everything else. She also has some specific marketing materials, some emails, a whole email campaign. She was known back in the day as the queen of short sales and foreclosures. And so we have some of her content within Wise Agent to help you with some of that marketing and what language to say, because no one that's going through that process wants to get a phone call saying like, so I hear you can't make your, payments. I mean, nobody wants to
Oh
hear that.
God.
There's a way of saying it, and she's been gracious enough to share that. So if you guys want that, reach out to our staff and we'll help you get that into your Wise Agent account.
Dude, let me put this out there before we run out of time. Don't use any lines like, hey, I'm sorry for your loss, or heard you got divorce papers filed. I found you in title toolbox and then pulled your phone number, right? Do not do any of that.
Yeah.
Don't do it. I don't, some people are probably laughing right now, but I've run into this like at least 4 or 5 times a year. We get somebody that's like, oh, I had a guy that delivered black roses. He was knocking on doors and giving black roses to people whose dad had just died or their mom had just died. It's insane, right? You can't do that. Have some
Yeah.
empathy when you're doing this stuff. Usually I act like it's a coincidence. I do not talk about death or anything. Let them bring it up if they want to talk about it,
Yeah.
they're dead. That's all you need to know, right?
Yeah.
like the divorce thing. You don't want to walk up and be like, oh yeah, I looked up, I saw you had a divorce. You know, it sucks for you, but I'm a divorce specialist. I've gone through a divorce before. Don't do it. If you do that, you're going to get a great, your response rate is going to be amazing, maybe even 10%. And it's going to be people cussing at you, yelling at you, and filling your voicemail with bad stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah. So yeah, just be mindful of the language that you use. And so I did post where you can email us to get access to those foreclosure drip campaigns. So just let us know when we can get those into your account. Matt, we're running out of time. And
Cool.
maybe my team can
I'm all
post
good.
one more time the link that they can go to sign up for this. It's absolutely free. You can get all of this geofarming information. It will right now it is just a CSV kind of coming soon, and we'll make a big splash and a big announcement for you guys once we get all of the technical stuff ironed out and it goes public. We'll get that over to you guys once you can start using an integration for these to just not have to do a download and upload. But
Yep.
Matt's gonna help you through it. So Matt,
We'll
thank you
get your,
so much.
we'll get your accounts in, and once the integration is done, you'll just be able to just click a button rather than go to the website, and and the systems will be talking back and forth. But for now, we'll get your accounts up and running so that we can help you out with the marketing side and
Yeah,
the data, and go from there.
yes, absolutely. Matt, thank you so much for taking time on your day off. Go enjoy
No problem.
the Southern California weather out there. I'm sure it's nice and beautiful. Are you a surfer? You can
I'm
go
a
out
mountain biker. I'm about to go
mountain
mountain
biking.
biking.
Okay, there you go. All right. Thank you all for joining. So thanks, Ed, for being on here today too. Next, so this is the last one for this what I call summer, because I take like this school year type of year in my mind. So I will be back in August 8th to host another webinar for you all. We'll keep you posted on who I'm talking with and what we're going to be talking about. That's yet to be determined. But if you guys are out there and you're like, hey, I'm doing something really cool and I'd love to share this with everyone, feel free to reach out to us and let us know. And we're happy to have you talk to us about that. And I will see you guys in August, unless I see you somewhere else on the road. I'll be traveling this summer for work. So, Matt, thanks so much.
See you guys on the trails if you're out there.
All right.
Later.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.